Okay, so, first reaction to the fact that oil is peaking and it's going down, well, we're a very inventive species. We've got tons of technology. Surely we'll invent an alternative, right? We've got solar, hydro, all these incredible new technologies coming through. We've got iPhones, you know. We're just going to hook iPhones up to the sun, right? We're going to get cables going up into the sun. Well, let's look a little bit more into that. So the concept of the silver bullet, right? If we can do something, if we can just keep drilling, if we can switch to alternatives, market efficiency, rely on free market economics. If we do all of those things or some of those things, everything will be okay. We can keep going. Well, here's what we're up against. Oil or petroleum in this chart, 34%. And you can see the other fossil fuels here, coal, natural gas, petroleum. Massive proportion of where we get our energy from. Renewables, 0.4%. This was back in 2006. It's gone a little up since then. Not too much, though. So for us to transition off of oil, which is already starting to peak and decline, we have to move on from this really quickly. So the conventional energy sources, natural gas, that's where we make a lot of our pesticides from. The peak is actually approaching as well. Everything is limited in supply, right? Everything that comes out of the ground, there's only so much of it there. It's also really difficult to transport it. So once it goes down in this country, it's hard to get it from other countries like with oil, mainly because you're transporting a gas. Coal, the energy returned on energy invested, or EROEI, is declining. So for every unit of energy we put into pulling out coal, we're getting less back. It's also very dirty. It's very bad for the environment. Nuclear, peak uranium is also expected before 2035. And the reason why we've hardly been building any of these plants in the past couple of decades is because they're so expensive and they're really controversial, especially for the poor communities that happen to live next to them, which is often, unfortunately, indigenous peoples. Hydroelectric, we pretty much maxed that out. Alternative energy sources, the real silver bullets, right? Well, solar and wind. The wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine. We need massive installation of these things. We also need to store energy, which we can't do effectively right now. We have to replace solar cells regularly. These only generate electricity, and a really important point is that these are actually outgrowths of fossil fuels, because what are the solar panels made of? How do we make them? How do we transport them? Fossil fuels. These things are fossil fuel derivatives, even though they might seem green. Wave, poor energy return. Nuclear fusion, decades of promises, still not got it. Hydrogen, right? Hydrogen is a great source of energy. No, it's not a source of energy. It's a form of energy storage. Hydrogen works by compressing it down. You need energy to compress it down. Corn ethanol, poor energy return on energy invested, and it also competes with the food supply. Not looking good so far. So let me talk about energy returned on energy invested so far. I just want to repeat what that means. That means for every unit of energy you put in, how many units do you get out? So in 1930, when we put 1 unit of energy to pull out crude oil, we got 100 units back, 100 times the investment. You'll see in 2000, look at what it was there. 20 times. It's gone down to less than a fifth, and now it's gone down since then. Coal is also really good. The fossil fuels, you see how they're bunched up here. They're really energy dense. Whereas the other renewables, for example, wind, nuclear, way down there, ethanol is practically 1. So what does 1 mean? Well, for every unit you're putting in, you're getting 1 back. Ethanol is actually slightly below 1. So you're putting in more energy than you're getting out. It's almost pointless to do it. And this is actually happening with oil. It's tending towards 1, but it's nowhere near there yet. It's still very powerful. But when something falls below 1, you may as well not bother. So people say, well, when's oil going to run out? Oil is never really going to run out. It's just going to become, the EROEI is going to become so low that it's pointless to pull it out anymore. So somewhere in 100 years' time, someone will be pumping oil out of the ground. But on a mass scale, is it going to be worth it for the energy companies to keep doing it? One of the chief issues with anything to replace oil is scale. How easy is it to scale it up? In 2005, the government commissioned something called the Hirsch Report to look at how long it would take for us to replace our current energy sources with something cleaner. They said ideally 10 years, probably more like 20 years. And that's presupposing a very healthy economy. You've seen down in downtown, One Rincon Place, right? The skyscraper by itself. There were meant to be lots of other buildings with that one, but no one's got any money anymore. But that's the kind of healthy economy we need if we're actually going to transition. Another problem, oil, we use a lot of oil. Every year we use about 1 cubic mile of oil. To replace it, we would need 1.6 million wind turbines, 5,200 coal-fired plants, 203 gorges dams, bearing in mind that one of those dams shook the earth slightly when it was activated, 2,600 nuclear power plants, and 4.5 billion solar panels. It's a huge task, huge. So Paul Chafurka actually looked at all these issues, looked at all the alternative forms of energy and said, okay, if we can scale them up as quickly as possible, if we can even increase our use of coal, what's the very best we can get in terms of total energy use when we combine everything? Well, you'll see he actually predicts a rise in total energy to around 2020. And no matter what we do, even with the most enthusiastic, upbeat predictions, which is what it pretty much was, you can still see it goes down. Pretty much everything we do in any way, total energy is going to go down. By the way, I'm the bad cop, and that half of this talk is a good cop, okay? So here's some of the key alternatives, key issues with alternatives. Oil is the most energy-dense form of energy you can get. Switching over to alternatives would probably take 20 years, presupposing a perfectly healthy economy, pre-One Rincon Place. Alternative energy cannot keep up with oil declines. Energy return on energy invested for alternatives is lower than fossil fuels, and total energy available is likely to steadily decline no matter what we do.